Hey, how you doing, everybody? Listen, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Clyde Rush, and this is Unqualified Sages. Now, I know you probably haven't seen me before, but you're going to know who I am by the time we finish. Just want to give a little bit of information about who it is that I am and what it is that I do. I consider myself an inner body engineer, and I know you're saying, oh my goodness, what is an inner body engineer? Well, what I do is basically the information from the body is the biological structure, the chronological things that actually happen in the body, as far as the chemistry and dendritic system and all those various systems in the body that make the body what it is that we know as operating systems. My whole thing is to provide information that people actually have about questions about how to get their body to function and operate to the best that they can possibly get it, as far as the systems that they actually have, from the cellular structure all the way out to the tissues, to the organs, to the systems, to the whole body. And there's a way to make that body optimized. And basically, what I've done is figured out how to make it optimized for you and you and you. And this is who it is that I am. And now I'm going to introduce the other unqualified sage. And she's going to talk a little bit about what she actually does as well.
Hi, guys. My name is Supreet, and we are unqualified sages. The reason why we call ourselves unqualified, we're just your everyday common humans living a regular life and exploring the world of spirituality. We would like to take you on a journey along with us as we come to our awakening, and hopefully, we all awaken together.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's like what Supreet just said. It is about that awakening. And that's a very, very heavy topic today. People are finding themselves in these states of awareness where it's like, am I awake? What is awakening? What does it feel like? What was I doing all this other time before? I thought I was awake. What does the awakening actually feel like? So, we're going to provide some information based on our experiences and other information that we've acquired through the time. So, Supreet.
So I feel like before, we even talk about awakening, Clyde, since you are a physical fitness guru,
Hmm.
I would like to see what your thoughts are on regulating our system
Perfect.
before we can go on the journey on spiritual deep dive, right?
Yeah.
Because most of us work 9 to 5, we have our daily struggles,
Hmm.
we are stuck in the cycle of providing shelter, food, and um, the daily day to day bills, you
Yeah.
know? So, how does an average person shift their mindset to provide a little bit of time to deep
Yeah.
dive into themselves and excel in life?
So, uh, thank you for sharing that. So basically, there's the nervous system is either dysregulated or regulated. Now, a dysregulated nervous system means that the body is in survival mode. And when we trigger on survival mode, it's the daily functionalities that we do every single day. The body's basically on autopilot. It does things based on patterns and predictability, almost without even thinking. It's actually a default mode. So we go into the normal habitual things of providing shelter for the family. We go to work. Most people tend to work on jobs that they don't really want to work on, that they don't enjoy, or that maybe
Relationships.
relationships.
That's a
That's
big
coming
one.
into it.
Yeah. That's
So
a
there's the
big
big
one, right?
three. The big
Yeah.
three is relationships, it's health, and it's work. And everybody that is on this planet that we're on is either going through one of those three different things, either individually, collectively, or simultaneously. And the thing with it is how do we function and operate and still be able to be the best version of ourselves, doing the thing it is that we love and enjoy when we have so many stresses on us and we get
Right.
forced into the same thing over and over. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and that's what I really find interesting in my journey of wanting to elevate spiritually,
Hmm.
but having to detach from the day-to-day baggage and leave it outside, at
Yeah.
least create a safe space,
Hmm.
for your mind, for your spirit. Um, what do you do on an everyday basis to declutter the clutter that we carry every day?
Well, it's funny. That's a good question. And it's calling it clutter is exactly what it is. And more often than not, we have an operating system. We have an old operating system that's based on the habits and things that we've done over an extended period of time, and the body learns that just to survive, as you were saying before. And then there's the new operating system, which we get to create and install within ourselves. It's like a phone has a new operating system that gets uploaded about 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So are we. And we have that same opportunity. So, a couple of things that I do to detach away from all the noise and all the minutiae of things that are just going on around is stillness, silence, and solitude. And a purpose for stillness, silence, and solitude is if there's so much noise going on around, it's a distraction. It's cognitive dissonance inside the head. That's just noise. The they, them, those, and others, the people pleasing. I got to do this because I'm going to forget about what I need and what my desires are. But when you turn the volume down on all that noise, you get to hear who you are. And you get to hear and feel what your desires may be. And then all of a sudden, because you're sitting still, that volume goes up on who you are, and the volume goes down on who they are. And then you
So you're
begin
saying when we go to work and we're out there struggling day to day, we turn the
to,
volume up.
you turn the volume up
And then we turn it
automatically.
down as soon as you walk in the door. But what if you have children? What if you have responsibilities at home? So when do you turn that volume down for yourself?
So here's the thing again. So in these environments that we go in, oftentimes the environments are sometimes conducive for growth and health and benefits. And sometimes that environment is not so conducive for health and growth and benefits. So you have to be able to discern and to create an inner being of yourself no matter what environment you're in. And how do you do that? Again, we got to slow things down just a bit and recognize that through what I call this, take a pause for a second to identify the stress, strain, or struggle that you may be in. And you take that deep breath in. When you take that deep breath in, you're telling your nervous system, I've got this. There's no reason to be in that default mode and be in survival mode. And when you take that deep breath in, you're literally telling the nervous system to turn off survival mode for a few seconds. And survival
And
mode is
leave it at the door.
exactly.
Leave it at
Leave
the
it at the
door.
door. Now, don't hold your breath while you're walking in the house, but just take a few seconds and allow yourself to shift from that state of survival and allow yourself to go from that sympathetic nervous system, which is what survival mode is, to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest, digest, relax, and pleasure. And for most of us, when we walk into our homes, we want to feel relaxed. We want to
So,
feel
like the
like
theta state, you're talking about going
exactly. Get
from
right to theta, right as at alpha theta. You want to make that shift because you want to be cognizant, but you don't want to be in high theta where it's like all this stuff is going on and I gotta pay attention. You want to be right at that alpha state, theta state where you're at that suggestion of me just allowing myself to be relaxed in my environment.
yeah, like a child, right? They're born in the theta state, so
Exactly.
they're
Yeah. So
um,
you want to be, and you have that inner child within yourself. So let's put it like this: you're actually listening to that inner child that wants to be at home and play. And if you have that environment that's conducive to being home and at play, the inner child gets to spring up. And then the adult gets to end up having fun because it's saying, hey, what does that inner child want to do? You know what I mean?
well, I want to put a slide through my house and then down water slide out to the house,
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
sure if that's possible. I'm very excited about this podcast because, many of us are watching a lot of social media, a lot of videos. There's a lot of fake gurus, everyone talking about awakening, realization. But I rarely come across everyday people like yourself or me that
Hmm.
living
Yeah.
a daily life and trying to first calm our mind, get in a theta state,
Yeah.
um, enjoy a little bit of life,
Hmm.
because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
To, we are here to, I mean, and this is coming from my learning, self-learning,
Hmm.
self-awareness, and spending some time since COVID. A lot of us have had
Yeah.
time since COVID to deep dive. But yeah, jumping from one state to the other, I call it life, right? That's the dance of life. We
That's
have
what it
fun
is.
with it.
Yes.
We have fun with it.
Yeah.
And then I've been meeting a lot of people. There's a lot of channeling going on online. There
Hmm.
are lots of people that have supernatural powers these days, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is psychic, at least
Hmm.
online on YouTube. When you search on the channel, there's psychic powers, psychic abilities, being able to talk to gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sitting here saying I'm on a spiritual journey.
Hmm.
and I am trying to find who it is that I am, why am I here, what is the purpose of life. And
Yeah.
then watch all of these people, there's such a gravitational pull,
Mm-hmm.
a desire, you know,
Yeah.
it's common human nature, like, oh, what are they doing? How do I master that skill? How do I get these psychic powers? How do I achieve what
Yeah.
they've achieved? So I'm trying to ask you this question: what exactly is channeling?
Mm-hmm.
What is, I guess, spiritual power, psychic abilities? Have you searched into these topics as I
Yeah, so they're normally higher intellects, higher states of awareness. Okay. And what we've got to remember is when we say the term superpowers, we're not talking about people taking off or anything along those lines. We're talking about higher states of consciousness. I just want to make sure people understand that. However, our intellect and our state of awareness from where we are, from whence we came, is a whole lot different now. Again, going back into the very thing it is that you stated in the beginning, so many different things happen in responsibility, working at places. We have family now, which requires more time for us to be out and about doing the things that we want to do and need to do. At the same time, that channeling aspect of what it is that you're referring to, we can do that for ourselves. And when you get in,
really, I
yeah,
would love to see
absolutely.
that. Let's do it today.
Well, we're actually doing it now. See, what ends up happening is we have these states of consciousness, states of awareness. You happened to mention it before when you thought about when you were speaking about theta, and this is a child in that state of theta where you're kind of like almost asleep, but you're still awake. You're still kind of conscientious. And what ends up happening is when things really start to slow down just a bit, your level of perception and awareness changes. And this is the part where the versions you hear people talking about, the higher version of myself, our altered state of consciousness, come into play. Because it's not a big bang sound, it's a very subtle, quiet sound. And it's a signal. And that signal is what resonates within the body. So we have energy, we have frequency, and we have vibration. And oftentimes, it's very important for us to understand that that energy, frequency, and vibration creates a signal. So we transmit information and we receive. Here's what I mean by that. When you think about somebody enough, or a person is thinking about you enough, you may receive a phone call or you may receive a text. And that's when you both are on the same wavelength. Again, you spoke about relationships. And depending on the type of relationship that you're in and the significance of that relationship, and here's the biggest part about that, the vulnerability that you actually have to trust another person with your feelings and they trust you with theirs allows what's called coherence. And when you're coherent with somebody, you hear people saying they're riding on the same wavelength. My thoughts can be your thoughts can be mine.
We're vibing, yeah.
We're vibing, exactly. And that's
Well,
exactly
there's
what
a
this
famous
is.
Punjabi song. It's by Diljit Dosanjh. It's called Vibe.
Look
You
at
know?
you. So here it is.
Yeah.
And just that thought right there, that's an example of a channel on a small bit because there's the thought of the idea about something that's in the air. And all of a sudden you open up and you draw that into the heart. And that's because as soon as you said vibe, you just kind of went into a little Punjabi
Right.
thing going on right there. And that's the
Yeah.
subtlety of it. That's it on its simplest form. But what happens is sometimes people tend to make things so complicated in the spiritual realm that they
Right.
make
I
it
see sadness. When I see spiritual people discussing spirituality, I see sadness,
yeah.
wondering um, why are you sad, depressed if you're so elevated? You
Yeah.
know, why do you
Interesting
have to
point.
work so hard if you're so elevated? So I no longer even have a desire to, watch those podcasts or even learn from those people right now. Maybe it'll change as I change.
Right.
The thing that the reason why this channel is here, it's for everyday common people. I want to bring
Exactly.
on regular folks, regular people, their struggles, their journey. How did they go from one level to 10 levels up? How
Mm-hmm.
did they achieve, let's say a janitor, how did a janitor achieve his lifestyle from there to buying his own home
Right.
to living a better life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
fighting, and then also being humble.
Yeah.
That humbleness that you see in people, the excitement of life, being able to go out there and enjoy like a
Yeah.
Ferris wheel. I don't think I can do that. I don't think that's something that I can go enjoy, but I see a lot of everyday regular folks being able to enjoy and have these moments
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
enjoyment, and that brought a thought about, this whole holistic side of medicine, the whole side
Yeah.
of gurus, yogis. It's catering, wellness is catering towards really just targeting the
Yeah.
sadness of folks.
Hmm.
It's I'm not seeing elevation. So how do we bring about elevation in these fields? And then I started thinking about the word trauma. I think we
Yeah.
talked about it
Yeah.
before,
We did. We
right?
talked
Like,
about
what are your
trauma.
thoughts about trauma? Like,
Yeah.
what is trauma? Like the minute somebody says the word trauma, right?
Yeah.
We go in a state of like memory of all the traumas that we've ever faced as a kid.
Yes.
I can remember what happened at 5, what happened at 10, what happened at 15, like the first boyfriend, first,
Yeah.
like everything, all the trauma
Exactly.
come rushing through my mind. So I
Hmm.
started Googling and searching, and I think I talked to you about it to
Yes, you
see,
did.
Clyde, do you know a different word that represents the exact opposite state?
Yeah. Exactly.
Of trauma. And I couldn't find anything online. I'm like, okay, what's happening? The dictionary doesn't have anything. I mean,
Yeah.
everything said wellness, words
Wholeness,
were depressing.
healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
What
nothing exactly opposite, like up is down, left is
exact
right.
feeling, the opposite feeling that you can tap into the memory of like ecstatic joy,
Yeah.
right? Like, how do I tap into a moment that I enjoyed with a friend and laughed like crazy for hours? How do
Yeah.
I tap into that energy within 30 seconds,
Well,
right?
it's
That would
interesting.
uplift our life. That would change the trajectory of the day. But
Yeah,
we
it
don't have
would.
that word in the English dictionary, you know?
Mm-mm. It's not there.
Um,
It's not
I
there.
looked in Sanskrit, I couldn't find anything. It was
Mhm.
sadness, so I'm not sure. Like maybe
I
click
looked in
might have
Swahili to
it.
see if there were a couple of things as well. Some other African language, diaspora as far as those different languages. The only reason why is because I just wanted to look at the origin of the word itself and understand the significance of what this word trauma actually means.
Right.
And
Do you remember all your traumas when you
oh,
think of that word?
listen.
Like what comes to your mind? Like,
So, based on who I am today and who I was before when I was in that traumatic state is a whole lot different. So, what I've learned how to do is what's called take the gift out of the suffering. And that's a
oh yeah.
process. Yeah. And it's not something that, you could turn around and do in a matter of seconds. But then again, it is something that you can literally do in a matter of seconds because, again, it goes along to how we've been conditioned and how we've been socialized and institutionalized along the lines of not being able to really critically think about who it is that we are. So, going back into the points that you were just speaking in reference to, once you're conditioned to think a certain way, you're taught how not to think any other way besides that. Because if you do, you won't be socially apt. You won't be socialized with the regular folks. You'll be looked at as a rebel. Who wants to be a
Right.
who wants to
Right.
disregard? Who doesn't want to listen? So there are these negative connotations that's associated to people who want to stand up in their own sovereignty. You actually mentioned a couple of things as far as other people who may feel like, you know what, I'm going through this thing, but I still want to be my autonomic self. I still want to be me. But then again, how do I do that? And this word trauma comes in. And when we can allow ourselves going back into the same thing, what I'm trying to get folks to understand is if you can just slow things down, not to stop, but just to make an assessment. And during that assessment, you ask yourself, wow, what am I feeling right now? And do I enjoy this feeling? And what ends up happening with a lot of people is they end up trauma bonding. They bond with the
Oh
trauma.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the trauma validates them for who they are because they feel like I'm rather just be in this pit of suffering and misery and worry as opposed to being willing to do the work to get out of it. And that work is the thing that actually brings people out. But then again, when you start to do that work, it's not a thing that can turn around in a couple of minutes. But then again, it could. Because what
See,
ends up,
us unqualified sages really
yeah,
need to come up with a way or a path. And I would ask like anyone that's watching this, or if someone wants to watch, common people like us,
Yeah.
um, help us find a word that could trigger all the positive, happy memories within 10, 20 seconds of your
Yeah.
life.
And
Can
that,
you tap into that memory? Can you remember that right away and just get in an ecstatic state without meditation, just on a
and
blink
you're
of a
saying the key
word,
thing. The
you
key thing
know?
with that is that word. That word.
Right, like we came from language. We created like neuro linguistic languages
Right.
now. Neural, networks is
Mm-hmm.
creating AI. So everything is related to language. And I'm
Right.
thinking, well, our language is lacking happiness. What
Well,
is
you know what?
one
The
language?
language, the happiness is there, but the focus has changed from happiness. And that's the distinct difference. See, it's all here. It's what you're tuned in, tapped in, and turned on to. And when you can understand that, then it's like, well, why do I have to not be happy about me? Why do I not? It's almost sensationalized to say, well, as long as you're not feeling happy, you're good. And it's not
Yeah,
good or not good, but it's like, why would you choose that when the simplest thing, like you just said, if I can think about the traumatic situations that I've been in, and I'm talking about me specifically, everybody else has their own choices. But if I can remember, and this is the key thing, if I can remember to pull the lesson from the emotional baggage and trauma, that's called wisdom. And now I can take that wisdom because I've learned and do what's called a pattern interruption and say, what was the lesson that I learned from this situation without feeling the trauma bond to it? Then
right. So reach
I've
a
got
state
that.
of joy and happiness.
Exactly. I
Use
get
your traumas to create wisdom and recognize the pattern, and then
exactly.
from the pattern, reach a state of enjoyment in
Right.
life, you
And
know?
that's the new operating system. So I like
Right.
to say wax on, wax off. All right. Wax off the old operating system and wax on the new.
What movie was that? I think.
The Karate Kid.
Oh, the Karate Kid. Okay, yeah, that was it's a popular line.
Yeah, so that was the whole concept of that, and we have these subtle things that we can take on. It's just like we laughed at that moment because of that moment of joy. And can you imagine like eliminating all the stuff that actually happened, but not because it didn't serve me, because it served who I was in the moment. But I have an opportunity now to become the next version of myself through the situation. It didn't happen to me, it happened through me. And when I can allow that, then I can allow whatever occurred to come out. And if you think about that, that's like breathing. So we breathe in and then we breathe out. And when you learn
Right.
how to do that, we learn how to relax the body and get into this rhythm of life. And the rhythm of life is effortless. It's like dancing, the mathematics of doing a dance, and then we get into the frequency, energy, and vibration. And I know that that's something that you know how to do just a little something, something about. you know,
Yeah. No, I think this is so cool. I'm enjoying this topic. You talked earlier, we were talking about the the theta states and our
yes,
mind, the dysregulated system. And I thought about the things that I was thinking about were the flight or fight mode,
yes,
you know?
yeah,
And how do we get trapped in that? It takes years, sometimes it takes eons to
yeah,
get out of that. You could spend your whole life in fight mode,
yeah, you do.
and I've seen that in Shrek. I don't know if you watch Shrek. Have you seen that
I see,
movie?
of course, that was one of
He's
the
always
things.
angry. He doesn't want to be in love. He's like on fire. I don't want to
Right,
do this. I'm not accepted. I'm not this. He's ready to fight. He's
right,
constantly rejecting
yeah,
any person to walk into his life, you know?
exactly.
And
And
everyone's watched Shrek. So this
right,
guy was
yeah.
stuck. I was watching it and I'm like, huh, I don't know if I want my son to watch this. Like he's stuck in a fight mode. I want him
Right,
to be a regulated human. But then
exactly.
there's very few of us that live a regulated life, you
Yeah.
know? That's a pattern. This Shrek was stuck in that pattern.
Yeah, he was. And you got to see that. And again, when we think about that, our moment, our Shrek moment, let's call it a Shrek moment, when we
Yeah.
feel like, the whole world is against me. And then what you end up doing is you acclimate that, and that becomes your personal reality. And because that's your personal reality, it becomes your personality. And that personality doesn't have to be your identity, but
Yeah, it
since
becomes
you
your identity.
but since you accept that
Yeah.
and then you say that and then you filter everything through that. So what I like to say is Sometimes you got to wash out the filters and change your identity and put on that new operating system and just the reverse thing. So here's again a pattern interruption. If I know that every time I go right, things don't necessarily work out for me, well, what would happen if I decide to go left? And I'm talking about brushing my teeth with my left hand if I'm right handed. I'm talking about going to the right instead of going to the left. Everything opposite for that particular day, then the propensity or the likelihood that everything
It's
would
actually
actually
a
change.
trick to changing the pattern in your brain waves. I've learned that in some of the courses
Yeah,
that um, if you're stuck in the fight or flight mode.
right,
This is
exactly.
actually a trick, what you mentioned. Brush your
Exactly.
teeth in the morning with your left hand, or not your
Mhm.
dominant hand that you
Non-dominant
usually,
hand.
yeah, brush your teeth with the opposite hand.
Right.
Write a sentence with the opposite hand that day, and you can
Exactly.
get yourself out of the fight or flight mode faster,
Exactly. And
you
this is
know?
neuroplasticity. So when we
Right.
talk about neuroplasticity in the brain, it's new neurological networks of neurons that fire and wire to create a new neurological network. Okay, so what happens is oftentimes in the core parts of the brain, so called, grooves get actually worn down because the patterns keep running, 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 the same part of the limbic part of the brain. So we have the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the thalamus, and those particular areas are the emotional triggers. So we have a stress response. That stress response opens up a cascade of hormones that get released into the body, cortisol, adrenaline, and all of a sudden the body's triggered on, heart rate variabilities go up, and now the body's in stress mode, and we are in fight, flight, freeze, or hide. And
Yeah,
that's the
women have that a lot more because
and
our
they
cycles
actually
change,
do.
on a
And that
monthly basis. So we have a lot more shift than men.
well, you
Uh,
actually well at this point, women are a lot more emotional than men are. And again, we can get into the biological structure of all those different things and then go on, and we will, because I've already said
Oh
it.
no, I don't. Not
Not now.
today. Today we just want to, keep it simple.
That's gonna
How
keep
do
it
we
simple.
get our system
Yeah.
regulated? How do we
So
get
that's
a
the whole
fight or
thing. So
flight?
that dysregulated nervous system is again a stress mode response. And in order to do that, it's the opposite thing. And the simplest way, as we said it, it's just as simple as doing something to interrupt that. Same thing. The non-dominant hand, a breathing. And the thing about it is to consistently do that little interrupted thing. And you do it so frequently that it becomes the new habit that you install on top of the old habit because the energy is still there for the thing, but it's how frequently do you do it. So these
I
are
think my
simple things.
goal
Hmm.
today and throughout this podcast session is to provide people with simple, fast tools
Exactly.
to get out of their problems because everyone's looking for quick fixes, right? We run to people to heal us.
Yeah.
Let's say I'll go spend 10 days at a wellness retreat and I'll
Hmm.
healed. But how about we just brush our teeth with a different, hand,
That's
or
simple.
write a sentence, or like
Yeah.
with the opposite hand. So I think these little minor details that can
Yeah.
shift our neurons, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
That's
I
it.
think
Walking on the
today,
ground, sitting out in the sun. Man, be careful about this now. You don't want to sit out there and just roast and carry on. But actually getting some of that sun energy, standing out, if it's, well, the rain and all these other different things. And I'm talking about going back to nature and just being at one,
yeah,
just being at peace. The wind that you actually hear in the air, you can't see it, but you can definitely feel it. And that frequency, that energy, that vibration, the subtleties of those things, when the body feels that, it gets back into its homeostasis. It's this normal pattern, and all the
right.
noise dissipates. And you can actually feel yourself being yourself as you were designed to be. You talked about purpose earlier, and there's an alignment that comes with that. And you spoke about mission. I like to call it MAP: mission, your alignment, and your purpose. And then you get to hear yourself thinking and feeling what that joy feels like, thinking and feeling what that relationship feels like, thinking and feeling what financially secure feels like, thinking and feeling what does it feel like to really be healthy, and then start to attract those things because they're already here. The question is what are you believing, and what are you pouring your energy into? Because no matter what you pour your energy into.
And what the system has created in our minds, how do we
Exactly.
shift years of work that has been implanted with
Mm-hmm.
by society? I think
Yeah.
that can really shift a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Awakening is not an easy path. It's not as easy as getting superpowers. I think all of us are still have to get up and go to work, right? We still
Yeah,
have
we
to
do, for the
earn the
most part.
money. We still have kids to take care of.
And
But
self. You still got to take care of yourself too, as well. And families for that matter. So, and
right.
your significant other as well as yourself. So, it is about finding the simple, fastest way to get from where you are to where you truly desire to. The dysfunction is where the functionality actually stands. And what do I mean by that? Like you just said a key thing
That's
here.
interesting.
If
Okay.
if people were in a dysfunctional state, they actually move away from their functionality for being who they truly are. And they actually look for somebody to tell them who they are instead of trusting and believing that know thyself.
So they go find a
They
dysregulated person.
find somebody who's actually even more dysregulated than they are, but they trust and believe in that person, which actually sometimes creates more dysregulation inside them. So if you can, again, I keep reiterating the same thing,
So
you know,
self-destruction.
and that's where the heading is to. Because again, you start to believe, and it's been talked about that there were going to be plenty of people who come out and they say that they're this, they say that they're that, and you should trust and believe those people because of the position that they actually stand on, or because we tend to put people on a pedestal. And again, you talk about listening to anybody else besides listening to yourself. And you trust and believe what they, them, those, and others say more than you trust and believe in yourself. And this is how the self proclaimed people come up and they stand up and be the ones that
Who is
put forth for
myself?
people.
Like,
Yeah.
who is myself? See, a lot of us, we're even struggling to find out who is myself because it's
Mm-hmm.
been so suppressed from, you know, when you're young, you're feeded into by the system, by the schools, and all of these things, right?
Right.
As you get older, you have relationships. I mean, we don't even know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
How do we begin that journey to finding who exactly am I and what is my purpose? And I think
Very
that's just the
interesting.
beginning of, wanting to awaken. That's not an awakened soul. We're at the
Yeah.
beginning stages.
Well, if you think about that like an iceberg, right? So the iceberg has the tip, and then way right underneath there, that thing
Yeah, I
goes
need a
layers.
word for what we talked about earlier. I keep interrupting you, but you said iceberg and I went to ice age, the movie. So like I don't know why. Imagine the little sloth. Like what was that squirrel? Like.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't know. My mind went to that state.
Exactly. And again, those are moments where inside of, okay, well,
We
I don't want
need
to
a
get off on
word.
that.
We do need a word that describes the happy moments because I don't know how I went from iceberg
Well,
to.
you know what? That's inside of the being, inside of the you that you are.
So is
It
that
was
the
a
American
moment.
programming, the media? Like my mind is
Well,
just in
let's take a
cartoons
look
all
at that
day.
for a second. And what happens is there's an association. So we have a snapshot, and that snapshot creating a feeling. And that feeling creates a trigger based on something that you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch, and it brings back the recollection of an idea. There's an association to it. So in that moment, there had to have been a moment of joy because you identified that iceberg with that squirrel. And we know the
Yeah.
movie, but at the same time, but look at what it's doing to you, and it's making you feel joyful,
It's
it's
making
making
me
you
feel
feel
good.
fun.
Yeah.
There's a
But I don't
big
have a word
smile.
for it, so I can't reach it. I was able to reach it because you pointed iceberg. I don't know
And that's
where
it.
you were going with that. I don't know if you were gonna have serious podcasts, but
Yeah. Well, we're
somehow I
light and
imagined,
bright, and
yeah.
we're just having fun here talking, but we're having a general conversation about the things that a lot of people think about. They may not have someone to speak in reference to these different things, but this is what the podcast is all about. It's not the traditional mores of this, that, and other. We're kind of going with this flow, and it allows you to kind of come in, and we're going to say certain things that's going to ignite something in you in a matter of a second. You're going to hear something that's going to trigger something else for you that maybe triggered something for somebody else. But the bottom line of it at the end of the day, it's the smile that you walk away with. That feeling of, I haven't thought about that in a minute. And if I could think about that and get that feeling again, what will my life look like? And you happen to ask a very important question. Who am I? And I like to put three things there. Who am I? Am I really who I say I am? And am I all that I ought to be? What are my morals? What's my code of conduct? What are my values? What are the things that I hold dear to my heart? What are the boundaries that I have set up for myself? And what are the true knowings that I actually have to validate who it is that I say that I am? What is my mission? What's the thing that I do so well that I could do all day long that if I took it out to the marketplace, I can be compensated for it because I do it so well that I can make a living from this thing? and I'm in alignment with it, because when I'm in alignment with it, everything else falls away. My purpose, I feel so good doing this thing that I could do it like from now until I have a hard time going to sleep. And I can't wait to get up the next day to start doing that thing again. When you're in mission alignment and purpose and you start to really identify with who you are, that's when the joy comes alive in yourself. And you feel it. It just feels good. Just like that
Right.
smile you had on your face.
Yeah, no, I think these things come from experience, from, really deep diving into yourself.
Yes.
Books aren't giving that information to me. They're a
Mhm.
helping tool, but they aren't providing that joy state, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Movies aren't providing that state. So I really don't know what exactly in the universe is providing that state of ecstatic happiness or joy, but
yeah,
I'd like to find it. I'd like to live there
yeah.
for a
You said it
day,
again.
you know?
You've got these points that you're making right now. You said I
Maybe
gotta
we don't have to take
find
a
it.
flight. Maybe we don't have to travel to go on vacation. Maybe we can get to that state.
That state, and you said the key word, it's a state, and that state is a state of consciousness. The state of consciousness actually comes from a state of feeling safe. See, that's one of the hierarchies of who it is that we are. We want to feel safe. We want to have food provided. We want to make sure that we have shelter for us and clothing. But the biggest thing is feeling safe. Because when you're safe, that's when you can create the desires of your heart. Not when you're in survival mode, because there's only one thing you can do in survival mode in a dysregulated nervous system, and that's survive. And that's by design. So if you really want to create, you got to pause for a minute and assess where you are, pivot from that place. And when you pivot from that place, that's being in its neutral state. And then proceed from a seat of safety to create what it is that you truly desire to have. But you got to get clear in your mind about the feeling that you feel when you see it in your mind's eye, just like that iceberg and you saw it and you lit up in that smile. There's an
Mhm.
association to that. And that whole thing, we have these pictures inside our mind the whole time. People create these vision boards, and but what happens when you have a vision that's embedded in your mind? What does that feel like to know that you're attracting that thing, that you're going to it, you'll bring it to you. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing, to be able to have that
Right.
joy within here.
I want to bring it to me and I want to bring it to everyone that's on this journey along with us, right?
Exactly.
Um, the power is within us. We are the
Mhm.
creators. We create our life and we create our joy. We create our misery. So we create everything that we go
Yes.
through, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
That's the
like
key thing. So,
we
as you're
create.
saying, we are the creator and we
Yeah,
get to create the life it is. Because one way or another, your participation or non participation is still participation. It's whether you're
right.
taking responsibility for what you do or choose not to do. The responsibility and the onus still relies and falls on you. We tend to shun off and we tend
I'll
to
take
give
the
those.
shine a little bit. Women are bigger creators. I would like to say creation wouldn't be possible on planet Earth
Hmm.
if it wasn't for women because they are the creators,
Yes.
humanity itself.
Yeah. And I know a lot of
Mankind,
guys.
not I don't know about the animal kingdom. Um, I know for humans,
Yeah.
to really pay gratitude, I'm in a female body in this lifetime,
Hmm.
but I would
Hmm.
like to say that there should be some gratitude towards the females because we really do create
Yes.
body. So we have a higher potential to create things, right? But many of
Yeah.
us forget that. Um,
You said something that's
we
really
get
key there.
shunned, we get put down
Hmm.
because there is an energy that wants to be above. But anything, I'd have to say, if there was anything existing that's closest to the term God, I would
Yeah.
say that's a woman. You
Of
know,
course.
that's the very first thing that create. Like we say, God created the world,
Hmm. Hmm.
but a
Hmm.
woman created man and a woman. So that's the closest experience to God you can have on earth.
Yeah. And when
On
you understand that and you identify with that, you understand this, the
Like
God,
you
the
crave
divine.
mom's cooking when you're at home or grandma's cooking. Why is that? Because you came out of that body. You
Yeah.
crave feeling that homely, that touch, that energy.
Yeah.
But, I don't know why I had to say that. I have no
Well,
idea
you said it
why. I
because it.
just thought about saying, you were talking about creation, and I was like, let me pitch this in here a little bit because
Yeah.
um, women all around, we don't get enough gratitude for that. I'm not saying I need to be like given gratitude every day because I created a child, but
Yeah, yeah,
there is a different level of awakening that happens to women, because they are able to create.
there is.
Um,
And when you think about that point from what you're saying, as far as I like to look at that as the divine. When we talk about the divine woman and the divine man, and you talk about the collaboration of the two, and when they do come together, and that synchronization, it's usually in the man or in the woman. Sometimes that divine creation is an idea. And sometimes that idea is expressed as a child. And if you can look at that, they both need to be nurtured from one aspect to the other. But oftentimes you find the guy that's not affiliated with the feminine version of the masculine complementary to each other. And that's got to happen inside the masculine and in the feminine as well. And when you have that, you have balance, you have order, you have propriety, you have reciprocity. And when you have that within inside the being, now you have harmony. And when you have that harmony within inside yourself, as it is within, so it is without. And we don't have to look for it on the external because we have it within inside ourselves. And that allows us to move differently in the context of this universe and this earth experience that we're all having. How can I optimize the me that I am unless I know the true me that I actually represent? And the true me that I represent is the divine version of the masculine and feminine intertwined into the me that I call myself to be. No different than the you that you know yourself to be as well. There's a masculine version inside there too. And it's the balance between the two. And we just operate and govern our lives according to how that flow allows us to be. So yeah, there's that part of yourself. So I'm gonna ask you a question about this now, right? And this may be a little bit
okay.
different. But when we think about that divine order of the masculine and feminine, some people associate more with one as opposed to the other. Now I see this time around I'm masculine, this time around you're feminine. Which one of those two different identities as far as masculine or feminine do you identify with more of? Just because you're a female in this feminine version of yourself doesn't mean that the masculine doesn't play a role in that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I have more of the Agni Tattva, which is the fire Tattva,
Yeah.
I like to say, and that is feminine, believe it or
Mm-hmm.
not, from what
Okay.
I've read from the eastern side of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because creation needs fire.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
associate myself with more of the feminine aspect because I have a lot more fire,
Yeah, yeah.
Agni Tattva, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and males are supposed to be, believe it or not, calmer,
Right.
fighters, the calm energy, the zen, the cool, the light blue, the baby blue color that they're associated with. So that's calmness, that's water energy.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
um so I would say I associate more with the feminine fire creation energy right now in
Yeah,
my life
yeah.
because I am on a plateau of creating this, creating that,
Mm-hmm.
creating everything in my life right now. So
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, everybody, well, I don't say everybody, people often go through one stage or another. And I think during this particular time in the society that we're in, you're finding that a lot more women are identifying with the masculine version of themselves. And it's creating a lot of conversation. Let's put it like that, and it's
yeah,
not
there's a
just.
lot of heated debate. I feel like women are rising. Their
Mhm.
Agni Tattva is rising. But to me, they're not identifying as a male
Mhm.
or masculine energy. They're actually just awakening the fire within. Like when you have a Kundalini rising, right?
Mhm.
Um, it is the fire Tattva rising
Right.
inside of you. So I think what is happening to women is that they're wanting to be acknowledged for what they are. They're
Yeah.
wanting to be acknowledged as the creators,
Mhm.
um,
And it's
and
a valid
it's been
point.
stolen away from them for a long, long time.
Right.
Like you look at the 1800s, you had um, witches, you call them, or whatever you might call, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
they had to deep dive into all of these modalities or these ways because
Mhm.
they didn't have the power at home, right? The man was the one that was going out there earning.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how do women keep their marriages alive? How do they do all of this? So they gravitated towards what you may call witchcraft today,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
these little magical things because it came about in creating a secure life or keeping their man or their family together. It came from the idea
Right.
of witchcraft really started from there, I think. I mean, according to my knowledge.
Right.
So I'd say that women are really now saying, watch me. I've created all of this. I can burn all of this. You know,
Well, yeah, that's very
now
important.
they're working. We're in the
Yeah.
workforce, right? So we're able to earn. We're about to create
Right.
humanity. So what is a man bringing to the table?
Hmm. And
It
it's
used to
very
be about
important.
earning. So, like,
Yeah.
what are they bringing to the table? Men actually aren't bringing the calm that much from what I've observed, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
if they're not bringing the calmness and they're not awakening something inside of the feminine energy for her to recognize who she is,
Right.
so that
Hmm.
she can create for the man, right? So, I would say they're rising up.
Yeah. And
Maybe women's kundalini is awakening. It's not
and
like, yeah,
that's
maybe that's
exactly what
what's
I was going
happening.
into. So that's the
Right.
key thing is we're talking about this awakening, and there is an awakening. And just as well as there's the awakening for the divine feminine energy, there's the awakening for the divine masculine, divine feminine energy within the male also. And that
Right.
shift is actually occurring. And it's just a matter of time before the synchronization and the rebalancing actually come into order. And then once that does happen, because everybody's moving at a different speed, they're moving at a different velocity. And when you think about it like that, just because I may have gone through a Kundalini awakening and went through the dark night of the soul and the rest of those different things, doesn't mean that everybody else has at the same time. And there's a different time continuum for that thing. When you go through it, it doesn't mean it's going to happen instantaneously overnight, but just knowing that you're in the process of it. And that process of the integration of that divine masculine, of that divine feminine, whether or not it's the male in this version or the feminine in that version, it's occurring. And it's important to understand the distinctions of what's actually happening because things are rising up and there are things that are being charred away.
Coming
And
to the surface.
yeah, and
Everything.
that
The
stuff starts to
problems are
come up.
rising up to the
Yeah, that's
surface. So
exactly what it
let's
is.
deal
So,
with that. We
and
don't
we
deal
do.
with it. We'll just go in
Yeah.
the mode of destruction.
Exactly. And those things that no longer serve you are being burned away. And now you're coming into this new part, but there's also a healing that's got to occur. So the flesh may be burned, but the soul is the thing that's on fire. And when that soul is on fire for the desires of who it is that you truly are, you can't help but radiate and be seen. And that's
Do
the
you
whole
think the
thing.
system's trying to awaken us?
Oh,
No,
man.
that's an odd question. Is the system behind this? Because how is it so many of us deep diving into these
Hmm.
topics, right? Like
Yeah.
when I was growing up, people weren't talking about Kundalini awakening or any of those things. This path was for yogis. This
Right.
path was for spiritual beings, someone that really decided this is who they are, this is what they want to do. They want to dissolve
Right.
and ascend
Their
forever.
identity for who they've been and start to evolve
Right.
and
But
become.
when society wants all of these Kundalini awakenings and all of these experiences, now are those false awakenings?
Mm.
You
Well,
know,
interesting point. And here's, I just want
like
to,
because
what
a
you just
real
said.
awakened soul would not exist.
So,
Once you've opened yourself up, you're air. You're
yeah.
gone. You no longer exist.
So think about what this is exactly the point that we're speaking in reference to. And some folks out there may have been struggling with this same thing. And this is the very top that we were speaking in reference to the opposite word of what trauma is. When your language is controlled, your definition and identity is controlled by that language. So if a people want to be controlled by the implementor of the language, they're going to give you the word and give you the definition. And when you are obliged to live by that word and that definition, you succumb. So now, if I say as a controller what the definition of something actually is, and you abide by it by the definition I give it, now you're validated because I say that you're validated as opposed to the true you, the true I
Right.
yourself.
Right.
That's
Nobody's really, yeah, I guess maybe awakening's being lost in this gamble of awakening nowadays in
Well, they're
one way.
giving a criteria to it. If you didn't go through this during your awakening, you're not awake. If this didn't happen during your awakening, you didn't roll around and spin around, jump back, patty whack, spin, give a dog a bone, you didn't actually go through an awakening.
I wonder if
Understand?
awakening is being created for us of what awakening should look like. What should it feel like? Because we're
Yeah.
seeing on media, social media, everywhere of what
Yeah.
it should look like. So nobody's really trying to truly awaken.
Hmm.
They are
Well, it's the
trying to
word.
live the idea of what they're witnessing
Yeah.
everywhere that awakening should be like.
And then we're social beings, so we, as a social being, we want to be part of the community. And when you want to be part of the community, that means you don't want to be isolated off by yourself. And when you're isolated off by yourself, you feel like there's something wrong with you. Oh, I don't fit in. And then all of a sudden, you go down that trajectory of not being like everybody else, and I'm not, associated with everybody else, and those type of things. So again, when we talk about these different definitions by an experience, if you didn't fall under the criteria for what they say the definition of something is, oh, that didn't really happen to you. And you don't know what happened. I was the one that was there, not you. But
Right.
that's the whole thing. So, but we validate that by giving our power away. And the
Yeah,
whole
we
thing, when
give
it
our
is,
power away.
when you submit that power and you give your peace away, my goodness, it's the hardest thing. If you can get it back, if you can. And it takes an inordinate amount of energy and effort to create it because you don't get it back. You got to create it all over again.
Oh, it's a lot harder to get it back.
Oh, yeah. You might as well create it over. And as a creator, that shift is what you have the opportunity to do. But we get caught up in the trap of saying, "Give me, give me this back," when you can create something brand new that's going to serve you better because that piece served the version of you on who you were. And if it's gone, it's because it served to the capacity that it possibly could. And now, as the creator operating from a seat of safety and a higher degree of consciousness, I get to create a new state of peace for the version of me that I know myself to be today. And now I move different. I get into this understanding about who I truly am. And it's not what they, them, those, and others say. It's not about self righteousness. It's about the validation of my morals, my code of conduct, the beliefs, the knowing it is that I say it is that I am, my attachment to that spiritual prowess, the mental capacity to understand in the process, and the emotional aptitude to understand those higher emotions, and then to be able to command this body to do the things it is that I desire for longevity and vitality for life. That's based on a signal. Simple
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, that's amazing. I think we had a very good time discussing what awakening is
Yeah.
and the
Trauma and trauma bonding and
trauma. How do we
emotional.
get, yeah, fight or flight mode, Shrek.
Yeah,
I kept,
dysregulated nervous systems, sympathetic, parasympathetic, fight, flight, freeze, or hide. Am I really who I say I am? Identity, understanding these different
right.
aspects. Yeah, we
Yeah, no,
covered a lot.
I think we should definitely continue this talk
Yeah.
again and take it a step further. I think both of us are on a awakening journey. We've
Yes.
had somewhat of a self-realization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm
Yeah.
not the one to talk about it. I don't like disclosing any of this information, but what I want to do is create a space, a
Yeah.
safe space for
Mm-hmm.
people to come and
Yeah.
comment, discuss,
This is
share,
no judgment.
for
No
no
judgment.
judgment, for everyday
Free
common
space.
folk.
Yeah. Come as you are.
Ah, you're
And, and,
right.
and we are who we are.
Wherever
And we
you
are
are, wherever
exactly
you are.
wherever you are, come as you are, and we are the unqualified sages. Let's just
If
put
we're
it
not
simply.
saying we have the Brahma Sutra knowledge, we're not
Right.
saying we're experts in the Vedas. I might have somewhat expertise in
Hmm.
astrology, but that's an
Yeah.
interest.
It's an interest.
Astrology is an interest of mine that I've had since I was five.
Right.
My
Exactly.
grandfather was into it. It's passed
Hmm.
down from generation, but it's an interest that was passed down. I don't
Right.
think knowledge
Exactly. And
gets
we're still
passed down.
learning. We're still evolving. We're still growing. We're still going through the motions of becoming the masters of self through this human experience and what it looks like and what it feels like, and really getting an idea about who I really am based on what I've gone through. And when I say go through, I'm talking about what did I grow through to become? And we got a
Right. What
chance
did
to
I
speak
grow
about it.
through?
Yeah, we got a chance to speak about that. And I just enjoy you sharing your time and your expertise and your awareness and your life channels and changes that allowed you to become. And again, for the people who are out there listening, we encourage you to drop a line in, say something that you want to hear something about, or ask a question. Or if you actually have that word that
Oh,
we may
yes.
not be aware about for trauma, let us know. We'll talk about it, figure out something else, you know? But yeah, so
I
this
think
is
Punjabi has a word closest to it. It's called sira. I'm not
sit
sure.
up. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
I mentioned it to you, so I'm not
Yes, you did.
sure. But
We'll
maybe
start with
there's a
that.
language out there, Swahili.
Yeah,
There's a
something.
click
Spanish,
sound. Yeah,
French.
something,
I mean, it
something
came from
exciting. Or
Greece,
we
but
create our own word that we can just,
and we
yeah,
can do that as well. That would be even more fantastic to create our own word and then give it a definition and then let that word be the word that everybody else uses because we created it ourselves. We have an opportunity
right.
to do that. So we can't talk about it without being about it.
The stages of our life, our own life, you
That's
know.
right. Exactly. So let's
All right,
cultivate,
Clyde.
create, and I appreciate you being here again. It's an honor to share this stage and this platform with you. And thank you
Oh,
for
it's an
showing up,
honor.
being the best version of yourself. Okay?
All right.
All right. Peace and blessings to you.